Alright, hi guys. So today you guys are going over learning target 9.3, and it says I can find circles circumference, area, arc length, and area of a sector. Okay, so, but in actuality, just for today, because I'm not there, you guys are just going to go over the two basic ones. You're going to go over circumference and you're going to go over area. I'm hoping in middle school you guys learned this already. We're going to make it just slightly more advanced by having you guys also work backwards, but it really shouldn't be too bad for you. So, circumference of a circle. Alright, so the circumference of the circle, you guys should know. Oh, that seems like I spelled it wrong. Nope, I'm good. Okay, so the circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle. It's like the perimeter of the circle. So the distance around the circle. So what happens is we have our circle here, and if I was to take a string and put it around the circle, like end to end, making it all on there, and then I took it off the circle and then I was to place it on a ruler and measure its length, that's what the circumference what it represents. So yesterday, we're on Tuesday, you guys learned about the degrees of it, which I called the measure of it, and that's a little bit different. So this is circumference and actual length of it. So it can be measured in inches or in feet or in meters. So it could technically be stretched on a ruler if we were to like undo the circle and measure it, okay? So it's all the way around. So to find the circumference, we use, there's two ways to write the same formula. So if we have our circle here, so we have the radius is half of it, but the whole thing is the diameter, right? The radius is half the diameter. So our two different versions are that we have the circumference equals the diameter times pi, and the same thing, but using radius, is 2 times the radius times pi, because the 2r is the same thing as the diameter, okay? Tomorrow when I'm back, we're going to talk about what pi actually is, and how it was created and figured out. But for now, you guys just need to know that pi is equal to 3.14 approximately. And in the calculator, there's a pi button, and you're free to use that. But you can also just type in 3.14, and you're going to get close enough for what we need to do, okay? Alright, so let's do some calculations here. So example A. I want to find the circumference if the radius of a circle is 6. Okay, so I've given you the radius this time. So we need to use the formula C equals 2, and usually we say 2 pi r. I know on the other slide I wrote 2r pi. Same thing, multiplication can be done in any order and it doesn't matter. Okay, so we need to just fill in what we know. So we don't know what C is, but we know the 2 and the pi, those are always going to be there. And our radius this time is 6, so it's times 6. So I could type all that in the calculator, or you could do the fact that 2 times 6 is 12, and times it by pi. But in the end, no matter how you guys type it in the calculator, you should get 37.7. And technically I should have been more like fancy and said this is like in 6 inches or something like that. And what's going to happen if when we put a unit of measure on there is when we're going just from, this is still length again, so we're just measuring on a ruler, so it stays in inches. When we get into area, it's going to be a little bit different. So it's 37.7 inches long. So that's just finding the circumference. So now we're going to go backwards, where I'm going to give you the circumference, and you guys are going to find either the radius or the diameter. So example B. Let's say find the radius. If the circumference is 31 feet. Alright, so because we're dealing with radius, we're going to use the circumference equals 2 pi r formula and fill in what I know. Well, this time I know the circumference, so I'm going to put 31 in for the C, and I've got my 2 pi, and I still don't know what r is. So this is where your solving equations skills are going to come in. So the 2, the pi, and the r, those are all multiplied to each other. So we need to undo the multiplication, and you undo multiplication by dividing. And what happens when we're using only one thing, like they're all attached through multiplication, so we can undo multiple things at once using the division. So what I can do is I can keep that 2 pi together as a group, and I can divide 31 by 2 pi, and so I've isolated r by itself, and 31 divided by 2 pi. And be careful, in your calculator, if you put this straight in there, you need to do 31, then your divide symbol, and then in parentheses, your 2 times pi, or 2 times 3.14, and you need to close your parenthesis. If you don't do that, what your calculator is going to do is it's going to do 31 divided by 2, and then it's going to multiply by pi, and that's going to give you the wrong answer. So please use your parentheses. But when you do that, you should get 4.93. And that is your radius. Okay, so that is circumference. So now we're going to go over area. And the area of a circle, and you guys should know this, but I don't ever like to assume. The area means what's inside the circle. Oops, my little thing went outside a little bit, but it's all of this in here. And what happens when we find area of something? It's literally taking it and it's breaking it into what we call square units. So it's breaking it in to find literally like how many little squares form that circle. So what happens is if I have something like my diameter is in, say it's like 6 inches. When I then go to find the area, my inches are going to become inches squared, because literally I'm taking my inch by inch things here, and I'm finding how much is actually in there. So it's inches squared. It's an inch by inch square, and how many of those that I have. So the formula for the area of a square is area equals pi r squared. Okay, so if we have the example of, so let's say example, what am I on? C. So if I have a circle, let's say find the area of a circle with the radius of 3. Okay, so, and I do want to point out, I'm just going to pause because I thought of this. Circumference had 2 formulas that were the same thing, just written differently. One used diameter and one used radius. With area you have to use the radius, It doesn't work with diameter. So if you're given diameter in a story problem, you need to divide it by 2 to use the radius and then use the area formula, okay? So we need to find the area, and I am going to have pi times my radius, which in this case is 3, squared. So what I would recommend doing is doing your squared first. Well, you have to. It's order of operations. So I have pi times 9, because 3 squared is 9. And then I do pi times 9, and when I do that, I get approximately 28.76. Shoot, and I forgot my units again. So let's say that was 3 meters. So this is 28.76 meters squared, because it's made up of the square units. Okay, so that's going forwards in the formula, so let's go backwards. So, example D. I want to find the radius if the area is 45 feet squared. Okay, and I want to remind you guys, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that feet squared does not mean you square the 45. It is just affecting the units. It's telling you that you're dealing with area instead of just the length, okay? So don't do anything with that feet squared. It's just the unit of measure. So we know that, so we need to use our formula, area equals pi r squared. And we have our area is 45, so I'm going to put 45 in for A, and I pi r squared. Okay, so we've got two things going on. We've got pi times r squared, and we have the r squared. So we have to undo the order of operations, meaning I have to go from the bottom up. So I don't have any additions and subtractions, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I have some multiplication in there. So I need to undo the multiplication that's in the problem first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide each side by pi. So that goes away, and I do 45 divided by pi, and that's going to give me approximately 14.33, and that equals r squared. And we need to get r totally by itself now. So to undo squaring, use square root both sides, just like you guys did when you had the Pythagorean theorem. So you get r equals, and then 14.33 square rooted is 3.78. And because we were dealing with feet, technically, I'm going to scoot my r over there. So I have 3.78 feet, and it's not feet squared anymore because I've taken it down to an actual length that's measured on a ruler. Okay, so my 3.78 feet is the radius. And that is it. Have fun with your assignment. Bye.